Chloe Thompson did it. She actually did it. The auditorium was silent, every eye fixed on Chloe standing at the center of the stage. It wasn't just any stage. It was the final round of the school's annual talent show, the one event where everyone in the school gathered to see who was the best. But Chloe had been doubted from the start. Everyone had heard about her. The shy, quiet girl with the wild braids that reached her waist, always sitting in the back, barely speaking a word to anyone. And when she stepped onto that stage earlier, clutching the microphone as if she might drop it any second, people could already predict how it was going to go. She wasn't supposed to win. Her biggest haters sat front and center, rolling their eyes the moment she made her entrance. Cassandra and Jenna, two girls who always found a reason to make Chloe feel small. They had teased her in the halls for months, calling her a nobody, making cruel remarks about her looks, and laughing at her for even thinking about singing in front of the whole school. But as Chloe opened her mouth to sing, something happened that none of them expected. Her voice was powerful, smooth, and carried through the whole auditorium like a river that flowed effortlessly between the rows of shocked faces. It wasn't the kind of voice they were used to hearing from the other kids, sounding like someone out of an album. But that wasn't even the most shocking part. The moment Chloe hit the highest note of her song, the one that had been making her nervous for weeks, the energy in the room shifted. The crowd went from judgment to admiration in a split second, some gasping in disbelief. But at that very moment, Jenna and Cassandra's sneers melted away, their faces becoming ghostly pale. Chloe had already taken over the stage. She had done it. Then, as the final note echoed and the entire school stood, clapping. In unison, it was Jenna and Cassandra who were the loudest to protest, but not with their usual insults. This time they stood frozen in place. Their mouths hung open, as if they couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. Chloe had won. No one could believe it. Her song had transformed her from the shy, overlooked girl into the one everyone now had to pay attention to. But Chloe was still catching her breath, smiling with surprise, unsure of whether this was all just a dream. As Chloe stood there, holding her breath, eyes wide in disbelief, Jenna, who was known for being one of the most popular and cruel girls in school, turned to her best friend Cassandra, her voice barely audible. "No way! Did she just win?" Everyone turned, whispering, glancing from Chloe's shocked face to the stunned expressions of her bullies. It was like the moment time had frozen in that very instant. But that wasn't the end. Chloe's journey had only just begun, and something even bigger was about to happen that would change everything. What could possibly happen next? Now, to understand how Chloe reached this unforgettable moment, we need to rewind just a bit. Life wasn't always this extraordinary. It wasn't even close. Chloe Thompson had always kept a low profile. She had two best friends, Tyler and Mia, who stood by her through thick and thin. They made the perfect trio, with Tyler's love for soccer, Mia's creative side, and Chloe's own secret talent, singing. It wasn't something she usually liked to talk about. Sure, she sang in the privacy of her room or in the backyard when the sun was setting. But the thought of singing in front of a crowd, let alone in front of her bullies, was enough to give Chloe nightmares. Her mother always encouraged her to find her voice, but it wasn't easy when Chloe lived in a world that often looked the other way. "You have a beautiful voice, Chloe," her mother would say as they sat at the kitchen table after dinner, doing nothing but talking and laughing about their day. But in school, Chloe wasn't seen like that. The things kids often said about her, that she was awkward, dorky, or too quiet, were hard to shake off. But Tyler and Mia always had her back. They reminded Chloe of her potential every day, even when it seemed like she'd never take the leap. Tyler had his athleticism, Mia had her art, but Chloe had something else, something hidden deep within her, an ability that no one saw but her closest friends. This year was different, though. Chloe had no choice. Her school principal announced a talent show, one where every student was encouraged to showcase their gifts. "You could really do well in this, Chloe," Mia had said one afternoon. Chloe remembered clearly. "Are you sure?" "I mean, what if I mess up?" Chloe asked, worry lining her face. "Chloe," Tyler chimed in, giving her that bright, convincing smile. "You're going to kill it." But the fear was still there. What if she failed? What if she embarrassed herself? And then there was the looming presence of Jenna and Cassandra. They weren't just your average bullies. They were popular, trendy, and they had built their reputation on taking other people down, especially kids like Chloe. "I hope you're not planning to embarrass yourself, Thompson," Jenna had whispered one afternoon in the hallway, sneering as always. With every tiny insult, every teasing word they had tossed at her over the years, Chloe had swallowed her discomfort and pushed on. She couldn't let them win this time. "I'm going for it," Chloe decided one morning. She had to prove to herself that she wasn't the quiet girl anymore. And so, practice began. She spent every free moment perfecting her voice, hiding away from the harshness of the world outside her headphones. Tyler and Mia supported her at every turn, even when Chloe felt like quitting. "Keep going," Mia whispered to her the night before the show, as Chloe's nerves hit a peak. "Tomorrow, you'll be ready." As she sat in the dressing room just moments before she was due on stage, Chloe felt sick. Her heart raced in her chest like a drum, and her hands were clammy. She could hear the whispers and light laughter of the students waiting for their turn to go on stage. But as the last student finished their performance and the announcer's voice boomed over the speakers, Chloe's turn came. She could do this. She stepped into the spotlight. Her nervousness left her, replaced by something she had never felt before, strength. And that's when the magic happened. But what Chloe didn't know was that winning the talent show would lead to consequences no one expected. The thunderous applause shook Chloe as she stood there, still in awe, holding her microphone, not knowing whether to smile or blink in disbelief. She wasn't sure if the moment was real. Had she really just stood up to the entire school and owned that stage? Her heartbeat was racing, and though she'd won the talent show, something told her the day's surprises were far from over. As the crowd's applause began to die down, she made her way to the side of the stage, still clutching the mic. Her mind was spinning. She could hear snippets of conversation from around her. Did you hear her voice? No one expected that from her. She's incredible. Why doesn't she sing more often? But the whispers that reached Chloe's ears made her stomach twist. That's not right, Chloe overheard Jenna mutter to Cassandra as they slowly walked by the backstage area. This can't be happening. She can't just win. The way Jenna said it, it wasn't just disbelief. It was as if Chloe had done the impossible. As Lo stood waiting backstage, still catching her breath, Tyler and Mia appeared beside her, grinning from ear to ear. "You did it, Chloe! You were amazing!" Tyler cheered, clapping her on the back. Mia added, "The whole school was in shock. No one could believe it." Chloe smiled faintly, but she wasn't entirely sure she could believe it herself. Was it really possible for a girl like her, the one who could barely speak in front of a crowd, to win? The shy girl who never spoke louder than necessary? Her hands were still shaking, and she wasn't sure if it was from excitement or something else. Her heart dropped when she remembered the moment that shook her the most. The expression on Jenna's face when she had been forced to acknowledge Chloe's voice, the unease in her eyes. The snickers and whispers she'd heard from her and her best friend were only the beginning. And that unease didn't stop when Chloe left the stage. In the lunchroom, everyone seemed to talk about it, but some conversations made her uncomfortable. "I can't believe she won," Jenna's voice echoed from across the room while she was walking past Chloe's table, still sitting with Tyler and Mia. "She didn't even deserve to be in the contest. It's embarrassing." The words cut through Chloe like a sharp knife, but she didn't react. Too many eyes were on them now. Tyler was about to speak up in Chloe's defense when she stopped him with a simple shake of her head. She had already dealt with enough of Jenna's teasing over the years, but it still hurt. Mia was also silently fuming, her clenched fists betraying her anger, but she remained calm for Chloe's sake. Then came the ultimate challenge. The principal had announced a winner's prize earlier during the talent show, and it wasn't just a trophy. Whoever won the talent show would receive a massive scholarship to attend a prestigious summer music camp in the city, one that could change Chloe's life. It was an opportunity to finally embrace what she'd kept hidden for years, but it was also the one thing that could drive people like Jenna and Cassandra absolutely insane with jealousy. But the drama wasn't over. No, it was only beginning. At the end of the day, as Chloe packed up her things, she could already feel the tension bubbling around her. Jenna stood across the hallway, locking eyes with Chloe and deliberately tilting her head to the side. She wasn't smiling. "I hope you enjoy that scholarship, Thompson," Jenna said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You won't be in control forever. People like you don't belong in places like that. Remember, you can't escape being, well, you." Chloe froze. She hadn't realized until that moment how much Jenna's words really did get to her. Was it true? Could she even belong there? She knew how different her life was from the glamorous one Jenna and her crowd led. She was the quiet, sometimes awkward girl with a powerful voice. But was she still too different for the world outside? Before Chloe could answer, Mia quickly stepped in front of her, blocking her view of Jenna and putting her arm around Chloe's shoulders protectively. "Don't let her get to you, Chloe. We know who you are and you're amazing." "Don't listen to her," Mia said firmly. But the damage had been done, and as much as Chloe wanted to shake off the haunting words, they were like a shadow hanging over her head, refusing to let her fully celebrate her victory. Days passed and the whispers at school slowly simmered down. But there was a noticeable change in Chloe. She had to fight harder against that nagging feeling that maybe Jenna and her friends were right, that she didn't belong in those places meant for bigger dreams. It wasn't until Chloe's first day at the summer music camp that everything shifted once again. What she didn't expect, though, was how Jenna would show up again at the most unexpected time, this time Evie, and more dangerous. As Chloe tried to focus on her music and her future, she realized that despite her powerful voice, the battle with her insecurities was far from over. And the next time she would face Jenna, something deeper, more destructive, would come into play. But what would it be? Everything in Chloe's world was now changing. It was time to see if she could keep up with it, or if the weight of self-doubt would drag her back into the shadows. Suddenly, Chloe's phone buzzed. It was a message from Mia. "You won't believe who's at the camp with you. Guess who just walked in? And it's not good news." Chloe's blood ran cold. Could it really be her? Could Jenna have found a way to follow her? Is this over already, or is this only the beginning? Chloe stared at her phone, her fingers trembling. The message Mia had sent was simple but filled with dread. "Guess who just walked in? And it's not good news." Her heart pounded in her chest as she reread the text, trying to process what it meant. Could it really be Jenna? How was that even possible? She shook her head, not wanting to believe it. But deep down, she knew. She had already faced enough of Jenna's cruelty at school, so why would the summer camp be any different? She grabbed her phone and quickly typed a response, her fingers clumsy with anxiety. "Where? What do you mean?" Mia replied almost instantly. "She's here. I just saw her with her mom, and it looks like she's going to be staying in the same dorm as you. Chloe, this could get ugly." The thought of facing Jenna in such a small, intimate setting sent waves of panic through Chloe. Summer camp was supposed to be a place to escape her insecurities, to dive deep into her passion for music, and finally feel like she belonged somewhere. But with Jenna on the same campus, all of that was at risk. Chloe couldn't let this ruin everything. Despite her racing heart, she forced Ed herself to put down the phone and take a few deep breaths. "You can do this," she whispered to herself. "You belong here. You have to believe that." But as Chloe walked into the camp's dining hall later that day, the last thing she wanted was to run into Jenna. Still, fate had other plans. As she entered, she was faced with none other than Jenna herself, standing by a table with a smirk plastered on her face. "Well, well," Jenna said, her voice cold and filled with mockery. "I guess I'll be seeing a lot of you this summer, Thompson. Don't think this is going to be as easy for you as it was at school. This is my world, and you don't belong here." Chloe's chest tightened as she felt all the air leave her lungs. She wanted to say something back, something to put Jenna in her place, but her words were stuck. In this moment, it felt like the world had turned upside down once again. But then something clicked inside of her. This was her chance, not to defend herself or confront Jenna, but to prove that she was stronger than her tormentor. She wasn't going to let someone like Jenna take away this moment, this opportunity, to become who she was meant to be. "Jenna," Chloe began, her voice steadier than she expected. "I don't know why you think you have to keep trying to put me down, but I'm not going to let you stop me. Not anymore." For a split second, Chloe thought Jenna might actually back down, but instead, she leaned in closer, her eyes narrowing in challenge. We'll see about that. Just know this. If you think you've escaped me, you're wrong. I'm everywhere. Chloe could feel the tension in the air between them. The way Jenna glared at her made it seem like this fight was only beginning. Chloe wanted to turn around and leave, but she took a deep breath and did the one thing she hadn't done before. She smiled, not out of fear but out of confidence. Jenna stepped back, her eyes flashing with confusion. You think you can just walk away from me? You're making a huge mistake. Chloe didn't respond. She simply walked past Jenna, her head held high, walking towards a table in the corner where Mia and Tyler were sitting. She didn't need to look back. She knew the last word had been hers, even if Jenna wasn't ready to accept it. Later that evening, Chloe's nerves were back, but they were mixed with something else, determination. She'd faced Jenna, stood up to her, and had somehow walked away unshaken. For the first time in a long time, Chloe felt empowered. If she could stand up to Jenna, she could handle anything that came her way at camp. But what was coming next would be something she never expected. The first music session began the next morning, and the camp instructor split everyone into groups based on their talent. Chloe, of course, was grouped with the most talented students from across the state. It was nerve-wracking, but Chloe could hold her own. And when it was her turn to sing in front of her group, she stood confidently, closing her eyes as the familiar chords began to play. But something felt off as she began singing. It wasn't the usual calm that came with singing in front of a crowd. No, this was different. She could sense that Jenna was watching her from the back of the room, the same cold stare Chloe had learned to fear. As Chloe hit the high notes, she felt the pressure building, not just from herself, but from the weight of Jenna's harsh glare. And then, something unexpected happened. Jenna stood up and interrupted her performance, the room freezing in shock. Sorry, but I think we need to do something about that voice of yours, Jenna said, a smug expression on her face. This is a music camp. You think you're the best just because you won some stupid talent show? You don't even belong in this group. I think you should leave. Chloe was frozen in place, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it. This was the UE Time It Challenge. If she left now, it would prove Jenna right. It would mean she wasn't strong enough to handle being here, that she was never meant to fit into a world like this. But if she stayed, she might finally prove to herself and to Jenna that she had more than enough courage to belong in this space. What was she going to do now? Would she let Jenna ruin everything, or would she face her head-on, just like she had done before? Chloe took a deep breath, her mind racing. Whatever she decided, this was going to be the defining moment of her summer. And the sound of a voice coming from behind her made her realize she wasn't facing this alone. Chloe, Mia called out softly, you can do this. For the first time in her life, Chloe felt like the whole world was in her hands. The question was, would she dare to hold on to it?